So, what we've just addressed are the three basic needs for survival, for human survival, right? Food and water. What's the next? Clothing and shelter. Once we meet those basic needs, then we start to get more creative. And so, this is the color of cotton. If everybody wore this, life would be rather boring, wouldn't it? So it didn't take very long before we began to desire something more than white. And so we discovered pretty quickly that soil can be used as a natural dye. And so every one of these shirts was colored, dyed, even what I'm wearing, with soil. So you take soil, you make mud, you take the shirt, the cotton fiber, you get it all muddy and gross and yucky, and you wash it, and none of those will ever be white again, and no amount of bleach will make a difference. Because the fibers have been changed, the colors of the fibers have been changed because of the way that they bonded chemically with the iron that's in the soil. So we discovered that the soil could be a source of color. And so very early on we discovered that, started using it. Now, we also discovered that you could use plants as dyes. So the letters on this shirt are done with a plant dye. But originally, all of the color that we had in the world that we were using in our clothing came from either soil or plants. So again, directly or indirectly, we trace that back to the soil. Now, the other thing, once we had an adequate food supply, we didn't have to go hunting and gathering, covering 6 and 8 and 10 and 12 hours a day, just going out to make sure that we had something to eat. We had a little more time, and we decided it'd be really cool not to eat out of our hands or drink out of gourds. So we went to the next step, and we said, well, let's make some vessels from which to drink, on which to eat. So how do we make these? With clay. Special kinds of clay, but with clay. And so what do? You take the soil, clay mineral, you dry it, you crush it, you sieve it, get all the other stuff out of it, and then you make mud, you shape it, and you bake it in a super hot fire, and you've got pottery. All sorts of different uses. Now, sometimes though people want fine china, right? Well, what's that? It's just made with a different kind of clay, a special kind of clay called kaolinite. It's a white powder stuff that you get originally from a certain place in China. Hence the name, China. But it's made with clay minerals. Now the interesting thing about that same kaolinite clay, anybody ever gotten really, really sick where you had stuff coming out of both ends and you drank that white chalky stuff? Kaopectate? You just ingested the same soil material on which you ate out of your china. Kaolinite is the KO part of kaopectate. Maybe sometime you got into something, you got a rash, and they put that pinkish colored medicine on your skin. You just put a different soil mineral, the smectite, on it. Kind of has that drawing feeling on it, and kind of shrinks a little bit and cools as the water evaporates from it. But you just use that soil for that purpose too. So, and then maybe you wanted to move up the scale and you really wanted pretty stuff, like crystal, glass. How do you make crystal and glass? You go back to the same old quartz sand. Make sure it's pure. Sort it, separate it, get the best stuff. Melt it, super hot fire, and then you blow it, put it in a cast and something like that to get your glass. So, then next, at first really rudimentary, but again, as we have more time, we're set up, we don't have to spend as much time on making sure that we can eat, making sure we have clothes, making sure we have shelter. People started turning to art. Every color in this painting is done with soil. Every one of them is a soil mineral. Taking them, dried them, ground them, then mixed with clear acrylic. And so we turn to art. So soil becomes important to us because it's the foundation of our society. Until we can make sure that we have food and water, shelter, clothing, all of which we get directly or indirectly from the soil, we can't move the society up. Can't really develop. Once we've got those basic needs met, we can start moving up the scale. We used soil to bring color to our lives. Maybe a little culture to our lives. A little beauty to our lives. As well as for medicine. So soil's been used historically for all sorts of different things as the foundation of our society. Without soil, there's no life.